ciugo cia meciria-inĩ na tũnua-inĩ twa aingĩ. One term na two term. Rĩrĩa slogan one term yagwetwo, meciria-inĩ ma aingĩ mũthuri ti Joyfrey Rigathi wa Gachagua, ũrĩa wĩnanagia mwana wa Mau na ũrĩa nĩwe mũnini wa mũtongoria wa kerĩ wa bũrũri wa Kenya kuma rĩrĩa gatiba ya bũrũri ya mwaka wa 2010 yahetũkirio. Mbica yake hatarĩ ũndũ kana nganja nĩyo yũkaga meciria-inĩ ma aingĩ. Nayo slogan two term ĩngĩgwetwo namba nene ya Kenya maririkanaga ũrĩa wĩ ũtongoria-inĩ wa bũrũri wa Kenya kwa ihinda rĩrĩ mũthamaki wa bũrũri Ndagĩtarĩ William Ruto. Twambe tũige one term na two term rwembeya-inĩ, tũingĩre thĩinĩ wa nyũmba ĩrĩa ndĩrenda wone ũrĩa yakĩtwo na ĩkagemio thĩinĩ nĩ bundi ũmwe na ũrĩa warĩ igweta rĩaiyũkĩtio na njĩra ĩmwe kuma huho-inĩ ciothe na tũco-inĩ tuothe twa bũrũri wa Kenya. Bundi ũyũ ti ũngĩ, ũyũ nĩ mũtigairĩ ũrĩa warĩ mũtongoria wa kerĩ wa bũrũri wa Kenya, Daniel Toroitich arap Moi. President Moi nĩ arĩ na ciana ciake cia ũteti na ũtongoria wa bũrũri, na makĩaria othe nĩ maganaga na makerahĩra marĩa o mũndũ egwatĩire kuma harĩ Moi. Na tũtanathiĩ na mbere no nyende ũmenye atĩ o mũndũ akoragwo na mĩena yake ĩrĩ, mwena ũrĩa wonekaga ũrĩ mwega mũno na mwena ũrĩa wonekaga ũrĩ mũũru kũringana na arĩa maramũtuĩra cira na ũrĩa ahana. Akĩaranĩria na mwandĩki ũmwe wa mohoro kuma ceceni-inĩ ya KTN, Gachagua nĩ agwetire ciugo cia kuonania atĩ Moi arĩ hakuhĩ mũno nake amu orio ciĩgiĩ Moi. Oigire Moi harĩ we nĩ ta baba wao na mentor wake oro ũndũ ũmwe na mũtongoria mwega.
Those images on your screen, I will be engaging the Mathera Member of Parliament, Honorable Rigathi Gachagua. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us today.
Thank you.
And we're here to remember him. We're here for you to share those days, you know, that you served under him and whom Moi was for you. And I'd like us to start from those days when you were a student leader at the University of Nairobi.
Yes. Thank you very much, Grace, for giving me this opportunity to talk about Mzee Moi. I think this is the best thing that could ever happen to me, to be able to talk about him, because he was a father. He was a mentor, he was a great leader, and as we wait to bury him on Wednesday, we have extremely fond memories of Mzee Daniel Toroitich arap Moi.
Nake Ndagĩtarĩ William Ruto akĩaria na ceceni ya Citizen TV, orio ciĩgiĩ Moi oigire Moi harĩ we nĩ ta baba wao na mbica ya ũrĩa bũrũri wa Kenya ũhana.
On my own behalf, on behalf of my family, and many friends who Mzee Daniel Toroitich arap Moi was our father figure, to say how sad it is that we have lost him, a man who made a huge contribution to what Kenya is today, and more specifically to the people and the leaders that we are today. So my very deep and sincere condolences to Mzee Daniel Toroitich arap Moi, our second president of the Republic of Kenya, a man who I knew at a very personal level, and a man who contributed immensely to what Kenya is today.
No ona kũrĩ o ũguo Amuruto nĩ arĩ style yake ya gũcokia ciũria. Mwandĩki wa mohoro no amũririe kĩũria gĩkĩ rĩngĩ na akĩmũria kũrĩ we ta mũndũ kĩũmbe angiuga Moi no. Na haha nĩho Ruto atarĩirie na kuga atĩ Moi nĩ mentor wake thĩinĩ wa thabarĩ ya ũteti oro ũndũ ũmwe na ũtongoria.
I'm curious to hear from you. You've talked about who he was for the country, but what did he mean to you?
Daniel Moi was later to become my mentor politically, because when I joined politics, I joined politics as a KANU member. Then Moi was the chairman of KANU and was president of Kenya. And even in our university days, we interacted with him a lot as student leaders from different districts of Kenya. And therefore, He was many things.
Tugithie na mbere turi o hari megie Gachagua ni ati akiaria na mwandiki wa mohoro ni amwirire ati Moi amuonire ari muruto wa university na agekenio muno ni speech iria arutire undu watumire Moi amwende muno na akimwita nyumba-ini ya iregi niguo magie na miario ya gukuria bururi.
I met Mzee Daniel Toroitich arap Moi way back in 1986. When I was at the University of Nairobi, I was a student leader. I was chairman of the Nyeri University Students Association. And Mzee used to hold delegations to interact with students and share with them and, have a good time with them. And we went for a delegation at Cabaret Gardens to see him one evening at 4 p.m. And retired President Moi Kibaki was there. He was the vice president. We had the member of parliament for Madeira, my predecessor, Matua Mai. We had a member of parliament for Nyeri Town, then Derito Githua. And as the leader, I made a speech, and Mzee was very impressed. And I think he must have noticed some leadership qualities in me. And after the ceremony, he invited me to the house with the vice president, then Moi Kibaki and the other leaders. We shared a meal, and he said, "Young man, I like the way you put things, and I think I see some leadership in you. Can you come and see me tomorrow morning?" And the following morning, I went to State House. I found I was being awaited for. I walked from the university, didn't have a car or anything. And at the gate, people were asking, "Who is this?" And then my name was there. He had already remembered to give my name there at the gate. I was ushered in, and we had a lengthy chat about Kenya, about young people, about education. He wanted to know about me, my parents and everything. And from there we struck a good rapport. And he asked me every 2 weeks to come in and have a chat.
Turi o hari o uria macemanirie na Moi Ndagĩtarĩ William Ruto akiaria na mwandĩki wa mohoro ni amũtarĩirie ati we macemanirie ari mwaka-ini wake wa mbere agitabania degree yake ya masters haria aingĩrire mũngano-ini wa YK92.
Excellency, you've given us a bit of history of where you and Moi first, in a sense, crossed paths. But for many Kenyans, they identify your sort of political career and, of course, the president's journey with YK92. Talk to us a little bit about the origins of YK92 and what Moi hoped it would become.
Some youth galvanized themselves into this Youth for KANU 92 when the elections were around the corner. And so we became part of that movement. Then I was a first-year master's student at the University of Nairobi. And in fact, because of joining the Youth for KANU, my graduation as a student of Nairobi University master's degree was delayed by almost 10 years because I joined the Youth for KANU and my academics were put on hold, yeah. And that is how now we became part of this movement to support KANU at that time, to support President Moi.
What role you were playing in particular?
Then I was the executive officer of Youth for KANU. I used to have an office at the KICC. And I used to see people youth from different parts of Kenya, from as early as 7 in the morning, and we used to live there at 10 p.m.
Nake Gachagua agithie na mbere na gũtarĩria ũrĩa mamenyanĩte na Moi. Nĩ atarĩirie ũrĩa amwĩtire na akĩmũgucia hakuhĩ nake thutha wa kũrĩkia mathomo make ma university mwaka-inĩ wa 1988.
And I remember in 1987 when he was going for heads of states and government conference in Vancouver, Canada for the Commonwealth. He carried me along for 10 days. Wow. And it was good boarding. And finally, when I graduated in 1988, he called me and said, "I'd like you to join my government as an administrative officer in my office." And I joined government.
Gachagua no acokire gũtarĩria atĩ kuma aingĩra wathani-inĩ wa Moi nĩ macemanagia nake o thutha wa ciumia 2 harĩa atarĩirie ũrĩa Moi arĩ na njĩra ciake cia mwanya cia kũmenya ũrĩa maũndũ marahanĩka ground o mũthenya.
And from there, he told me we'll be talking every 2 weeks because Mzee Moi had a very, very unique way of governance. He had the formal contacts in government. the provincial commissioners, commissioner of police, director of CID, director of intelligence. Then he had another level of junior officers he was talking to directly. And then he had also one NG he used to talk directly. The late president had real-time information about this country.
Kũngĩ na kuo nĩ atĩ Ndagĩtarĩ William Ruto agĩtarĩria oigire Moi arĩ mũndũ mũtana mũno, ũndũ ũrĩa aingĩ mũno mangĩkorwo mathomire na magĩkobia kuma kũrĩ we arĩ ũmwe wao.
Moi was a very generous person. First, he really went out of his way, and maybe even some of the traits some of us have of giving, we may have learned from him, or he may have influenced us in some way. I remember my first interaction with Moi when it comes to what you've just said. A few of us, university students, we went to see him at one point. And we asked him to give us a piece of land in Eldoret. And he actually did.
What for?
And we sold the piece of land. And with that piece of land, I remember I bought my first car.
Gachagua agĩtarĩria oigire Moi nĩ anyitĩte itemi inene mũno harĩ kũmũtua ũrĩa arĩ mũthenya wa ũmũthĩ, agĩtarĩria nginyagia ũrĩa Moi arahũkaga tene na akanjĩrĩria mũthenya na mahoya atanjĩtie gwĩka ũndũ o wothe.
It's okay. You know, I'm your father. Let's have a discussion. He was a humble man, and he made somebody feel very comfortable in his presence. And as the years went by, you know, we got very comfortable with him and we became very close. And he was also very humorous. He had many jokes, and he would make somebody really feel like another human being. This is the president, you're just here, but he will really make you feel very humane. So the story of Moi is a big story. You know, some of us are what we are today because of him. He mentored me as a young person and introduced me into leadership. You know, so today, even I do what I am doing, I really borrow from him. This man would wake up at 5 a.m. and pray. And then he would start calls from 5:30 across the country. By the time he gets on his desk by 7, the man is a walking box of information. He knows everything, the whole country.
Akĩongerera na gũkindĩra makĩria Gachagua oigire Moi ndũngĩamũhithire ũndũ oro wothe, amu arĩ na andũ ake a kũmũrehera ndũmĩrĩri cia ũma cia ũrĩa kũrathiĩ na mbere, akiuga we gũkorwo arĩ mũndũ wa kwaria ma nĩkuo gwatũmire maikaranie wega na Moi kwa ihinda rĩa mĩaka 14.
And that is how you will not cheat Moi. People would brief him in the morning and somebody loses his job at 1 o'clock. Because he's cross-checking information. He never believed in one source of information. But the beauty about President Moi, if he trusted you completely. And he would only trust you if you don't cheat him. And if you cheat him, and he gets to know, he was very furious. And he would face it. And that's how you find people who are very close to him along the way they fell out. As long as you are truthful to President Moi, as long as you told him as it is, you remain his friend. That is how I was able to stay with him for 14 years. And until his sickness and death, we've remained friends and close because I told him the truth as it is.
Augire rĩmwe Moi nĩ amũtũmire Kĩrĩnyaga na arĩ kũu he kĩũria amũririe, atakũmenya Moi nĩ kũmũgeria amũgeragia one kana no amũhenie, amu ona atamũrĩtie nĩ ahetwo ndũmĩrĩri cia ũrĩa kũhana nĩ andũ ake a kũnyabara.
Sometimes it was bitter truth. I remember in 1990, and 1990, he posted me somewhere in Kirinyaga to handle the political situation. We had a big conflict between Njiro and Juno, and he wanted me to handle it, and I was taking instructions directly from him on how to manage the situation. And he called me and said, I would like you to give me an honest opinion. There is this clamor for multipartyism, and I hear people are very unhappy. What is the position? Can you give me as it is? And I told him, it is true. Kenyans are wary of the one-party system. They feel they have been pushed too much. and they are beginning to get very rebellious. They are getting unhappy with you, Mzee, and your government. I think it is true. We need to change tact. I think you need to accede to these demands. I think you need to look at it in a dignified manner and see how to manage it. He said, it's true. I agree with you. I have the same information. I wanted to hear from an ordinary officer, not the people top here who are telling me, I have this information, we'll manage it. And take it from me, it will be well. And after some time, he called a meeting in Kasarani. The delegates could not, the Kano delegates could hear none of it. They wanted one party state. And at the end of the conference, he said, no. I think the world is changing. We need to move from single party to multi-partyism. We need to repeal Section 2A and move on, because this is our country and we can't have a country where everybody is unhappy. And he convinced the delegates.
Na ngeinekereria witikio na kanorege aya eri hatari undu kana nganja wathani wao na utongoria wao ungeikio kabiru na uma waragania na ucamba wina mbica ya Moi hari maundu maingi maria mekaga mamwe mamo ari maria mendetwo muno makiria ni andu na mangi ari maria mathuirwo muno ni andu kuga ati roho wa Moi ni munene muno makiria na niguo uratongoria bururi na njira nene miena eri mwena wa wathani na mwena wa mung'ethaniro. Angikorwo no wende tuthie na mbere na ndereti ta ici, subscribe, like, comment and share. Mwandiki na muthomi wa ndereti ino nenie na njitagwo Ngete Kamaina Wachira.